Hi there, it's Lisa Stens from Lisa's Creative Corner. Today I'm going to teach you how to make an embossed vellum card that looks like this using Stampin' Up's Sunflower 3D embossing folder. I absolutely love this embossing folder and I can't wait to show you how to use it to make this card. We're going to start out with a piece of thick vellum that measures 4¼ by 11 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and put a link down below to where I purchased this vellum on Amazon, in addition to links to all of the other supplies that I've used on this card. As you can see, I scored it carefully in the center at 5½ inches. And now I'm going to go ahead and fold it and press down with my fingers and then go over it again with my bone folder so that I get a nice crisp crease. When you score it, you want to make sure not to press too hard because it'll go right through the vellum and you don't want that to happen. Now we're going to emboss the front panel of this card using the Sunflower 3D embossing folder. And as I mentioned earlier, I really love this embossing folder for a number of reasons. One, because it's a 3D embossing folder, which means it gives you a deeper impression with more detail. And another reason is because it's a pretty large folder. I've created a number of cards using this embossing folder, and I'll put a link down below to another card that I made where I was able to get 2 card fronts from one embossed piece from this folder. So as you can see here, there's a nice line where the image ends. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to line up the scored end of the vellum right up to that line on the embossing folder and close it up and run it through your embossing machine. So as you can see here, I put it in just a little bit too far and it embossed a little bit too far to the back, but that's going to be fine because that back edge is going to be covered. You won't even see it. Now's the fun part where we actually get to color the image. Now because we're coloring on vellum, you want to make sure to use alcohol markers so the ink doesn't bleed. And I'm going to be using Stampin' Up's Blends markers, and we're going to be using Daffodil Delight, Lemon Lolly, Old Olive, SU100, which is from the Deep Blends Combo Pack, Crumb Cake, and Pecan Pie. I'm going to put a piece of white cardstock behind my vellum so that I can see the color a little bit better as I'm coloring and blending. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to speed this up as I color so you don't have to watch me color in real time. But I thought you might like to see which colors that I'm using and how I'm blending them so that you can get a realistic look on the flower petals, on the leaves, and on the centers of the flowers. Now that our coloring is done, we're going to go ahead and add 2 pieces of 4¼ by 5½ inches of white cardstock, one to the very back and one to the center. And so we're going to sort of sandwich in that back piece of vellum. You're going to want to use a very strong, probably tape runner type of adhesive to attach the front and back because if you try to use a liquid adhesive, it just doesn't work very well with the vellum. So I like using Stampin' Up's seal. And so I added a little bit around the edges, and I'm going ahead and I'm going to attach that piece to the very back of the card. And I'm noticing I got a little fingerprint there on the right side, probably had some ink left on my fingers, but that's okay because that's going to be completely covered. So we're going to go ahead and add that center piece inside just underneath that score line. You don't want to put it up too far because it'll be hard to fold it. So just put it down just below that score line and make sure that it folds over nicely. So you can see there's a little bit that's hanging over the edge, and you can just go ahead and use your paper trimmer to trim off anything that is hanging over the edge just a tiny bit. And I noticed there's a little bit hanging over on that left side, so I'm going to go ahead and trim off a little sliver on that left side as well. Now that our card base is done, we can go ahead and add a sentiment and some embellishments. And I'm using one of my absolute favorite sentiment stamp sets called More Messages. Check out this stamp set. It's got so many sentiments all on one stamp. And even better, it has a coordinating die so you can die cut all of the sentiments at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and ink up this stamp using some early espresso ink, and I'm doing the best I can to cover every little nook and cranny on this stamp because it's a big one. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp it on some white cardstock. And because it's such a large stamp, I want to make sure that I get some even pressure as I'm pressing down. So I'm going to use this stamp pressure tool that I purchased on Amazon. And again, I'll put a link down below to where I purchased it. And now I'm going to pull out my favorite part of this bundle, which is the coordinating die. And because it's got all different shapes and sizes, but they match perfectly up to the sentiments, you just want to line them up as best as you can. And I like to use a couple pieces of washi tape just to hold it in place before I run it through my die cut machine. This is after I've run it through my machine, and you can see how each of the sentiments just pops out so nicely. And look at all of the fun different shapes and sizes and sentiments that you have for future cards. So I have a little bin that I keep all of my extras in. So if I'm looking for a sentiment or I'm not quite sure what I want, I can go through that bin later on and just pull out what I need. So I think for this card, I'm going to go ahead and use the one that says you're the absolute best. I think the size is perfect, and I like the sentiment as well. I also used the die again on a piece of blank cardstock, and this way I have a bunch of die cut sentiment pieces that I can use later on to stamp whatever sentiment I want. And on the inside of the card, sometimes if I have a clear card or vellum card, I like to back the sentiment on the inside just in case it shows through. So I wanted to make sure I had a piece cut that coordinated with that oval shape just in case. Now I'm going to go ahead and attach the sentiment piece to the front of the card with some dimensionals. I think I'm going to go ahead and put it in that lower right corner, and yep, I think that looks good. And I'm going to open up the card to see if I can see the adhesive on the inside, and I actually can't. I think it looks fine. Sometimes, like I said, I like to back the inside if I can see the adhesive, but I think I'm going to go ahead and just leave it the way it is. Now I'm going to use this linen thread to create a double bow. And I love this thread. It goes with just about every project I make. I use it a lot. So you're going to want to go ahead and cut a large piece, probably longer than you're going to think you need. And so you're going to wrap it around these two fingers in a figure 8, just like this. Then you're going to hold it right here and bring it through underneath. So you're kind of creating a little loop. Sorry, you can't see that right there, but see here, you can create a little loop, and then you're going to tuck it underneath that loop and pull it. So you're kind of like tying a little knot in the center. So I don't know if you can see here how I've done that, and then you're just going to kind of pull it, and then try to pull your fingers out if you can. I know it's a little tight here. But then you have your double loop and you just need to kind of pull to tighten up that little knot, and it was a quick and easy double bow. So now I'm going to go ahead and just trim off the ends, and I'm going to use this on the bottom of my card. Now I gotta figure out, do I want to put it in the corner or at the top or the bottom of the sentiment? I think the corner is going to work the best, but because I've already adhered that sentiment panel, I'm going to have to slide the corner of that bow right down in between two of those dimensionals, but it seemed to work out okay. So now I'm going to adhere it with a mini glue dot. And because these mini glue dots are still a little bit bigger than I want, I'm going to go ahead and use the crafter tip of my Take Your Pick tool, and I'm going to roll it even smaller into like a little ball, and I'm going to put it right behind that knot on the bow. And it looks like, I had to pull it out, but it's going to work out fine. I can go ahead and slide that corner right back in between those dimensionals, and it'll be just fine. So, yep, I think that's going to work. I'm going to press down here, and I think I need to just squish it down a little bit more. Take Your Pick tool is my favorite. It's so perfect for this kind of stuff. And I think that looks great. Now we're going to add one of my absolute favorite embellishments, the brushed brass butterflies. If you've followed me for a while or seen my Instagram or my blog posts at all, you'll know that I use these butterflies a lot. They are just one of my absolute favorite little embellishments. So I'm going to use the edge of my Take Your Pick tool, the little the piercing tool end, and pull them off and just sort of add them here, and I've got one couple in the corner there and then one right over that knot of the bow, and I think that actually looks pretty good. I think my card is done. What do you think? I would love to hear your thoughts and what you think you might do with vellum and this amazing 3D embossing folder. Again, I will go ahead and post a link down below to all of the supplies that I used, and I just want to thank you again for joining me today, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon or evening or morning or whatever time of day it is for you. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.